The signal came through on all frequencies, transmitted in over 300 known galactic languages. It echoed across the void, pulsing like a distant heartbeat through the static of deep space. The message was simple, direct, and coldly efficient. This is the United Earth Fleet. Be advised, human vessels are sovereign territory. Unauthorized boarding will be met with lethal force. We do not take prisoners. In the Grand Council chamber of the Merezan Empire, Supreme Commander Vexer laughed as the transmission played for the assembled admirals and ministers. The chamber, carved from living crystal that captured and refracted the light of their triple suns, seemed to amplify his derision. Is this what passes for diplomacy among primitives? He asked, mandibles clicking in their species equivalent of a smirk. They've barely left their solar system, and already they issue threats. The Merezan had ruled the Cygnus Arm for over 10,000 years. Their biomechanical ships were the envy of lesser species, their warrior caste feared across 1,000 worlds. They had subjugated empires that had existed for millennia before humans had even discovered fire. Admiral Kiara, older and wiser than her commander, didn't join in the laughter. Her chitinous armor, marked with the scars of 100 campaigns, creaked slightly as she leaned forward. We should not dismiss them so easily, she cautioned. Our xenopsychologists report that humans evolved as pursuit predators. They are persistent, adaptable, and surprisingly resourceful. They are vermin, Vexer replied dismissively, barely worthy of assimilation into our collective. Their technology is crude, their ships fragile. They rely on combustion and fission when the rest of the galaxy has long since moved to zero-point energy. Kiara's compound eyes flickered with concern. They may be technologically behind, but their advancements in the last century have outpaced any species we've encountered. And there are rumors. Rumors? Vexar's antennae twitched with impatience. The Dorelli Trading Consortium attempted to acquire human technology 6 cycles ago. Their boarding parties found the human vessels abandoned. When they returned to their ships, they found their own navigation systems compromised. The entire fleet was directed into the heart of a pulsar. Vexer waved a clawed appendage dismissively. Dorelli incompetence, nothing more. He turned to his war council. We will demonstrate to these humans their proper place in the galactic hierarchy. Dispatch Scout Group 7 to intercept the human vessel designated UES Horizon. Have them conduct a standard boarding operation. Extract their technology, their knowledge, and if possible, specimens for biological examination. Kiara's mandibles clicked in protest, but she knew better than to challenge Vexer publicly. The order was given, the die cast. Scout Group 7, 5 sleek biomechanical vessels shaped like elongated teardrops, slipped through hyperspace toward the coordinates where the human ship had last been detected. Their commander, Sub-Admiral Zex, was young and ambitious, eager to please Vexer with a swift victory. The UES Horizon was alone when they found it, drifting near a nebula at the edge of what humans had designated as their territory. It was small by Merezan standards, perhaps 300 meters in length, with a boxy, utilitarian design that spoke of function over aesthetics. Its hull was marked with the blue and white emblem of Earth's United Fleet. Pitiful, Zex commented as the ship appeared on their view screens. Primitive reaction engines, basic armor plating. I detect minimal weapon systems, and no energy shielding. He turned to his boarding coordinators. Prepare the acquisition teams. Standard protocol. As the Merezan ships surrounded the human vessel, they transmitted the Empire's standard declaration of domain, a formality that announced their intent to claim the ship and all aboard it as property of the Empire. It was a courtesy they extended to species worthy of respect. For humans, it was merely procedure. The response came seconds later. Merezan vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Horizon. You are in violation of Earth space. Your stated intention to board constitutes an act of war under the Terran Accords. Withdraw immediately. Zex's mandibles clicked in amusement. How quaint. They believe they can issue demands. He switched to the external channel. Human vessel, power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile and will only result in unnecessary damage to your ship and crew. There was a long pause before the reply came. Very well. We will comply under protest. Be advised. This encounter has been logged and transmitted to Earth Command. Too easy, Zex thought. These humans understood their position in the hierarchy after all. The 5 boarding pods launched from the Merazan vessels, biomechanical constructs that attached themselves to the Horizon's hull like parasites. They deployed molecular disruptors that sliced through the metal skin of the human ship, creating perfect circular openings. 30 Merazan warriors, encased in their living armor, poured into the human vessel. Their orders were simple: subdue any resistance, secure the bridge and engineering sections, and begin downloading all data from the ship's systems. The corridors they entered were dimly lit, emergency lighting casting long shadows. The air was strangely cold, and their sensors detected no movement, no life signs. The humans have abandoned ship. The lead warrior reported back to Zex. Likely escaped in their primitive evacuation pods. Zex clicked in disappointment. He had hoped to add at least a few human specimens to the Empire's collection. Proceed to the bridge. Download their navigational data. Perhaps we can track their escape route. The warriors moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, but something felt wrong. The vessel was too quiet, too empty. There were no signs of a hasty evacuation, no personal items left behind. It was as if the ship had never been crewed at all. On the bridge, the lead warrior found active consoles and began the data extraction process. Sub-Admiral, I am accessing their systems now. Strange. Their encryption is more sophisticated than expected. That was when the lights changed, shifting from emergency red to a deep, pulsing blue. A synthetic voice echoed through the ship's corridors, calm and emotionless. Unauthorized presence detected. ODN protocol engage. Venting atmosphere in 10 seconds. The warriors froze. Their armor could sustain them in vacuum, but only for a limited time. What is this? Zex demanded from his command ship. Override their systems. Unable to comply, the lead warrior responded, his voice tinged with the first hints of fear. Their systems are rejecting our interface, and there's something else. A signal is being broadcast from the human ship. Before Zex could respond, the signal reached his vessel. It bypassed their firewalls as if they didn't exist, racing through their biomechanical systems with terrifying speed. View screens flickered, showing a simple image: a human skull superimposed over crossed swords. On the horizon, the Merazan warriors felt their armor seize up, the biomechanical components turning against them. The living metal contracted, crushing limbs and constricting around vital organs. Their screams lasted only seconds before the ship's atmosphere vented into space, carrying their dead bodies with it. Aboard the Merazan vessels, chaos erupted. Their living ships, infected by whatever had been transmitted from the horizon, began to turn on their crews. Navigation systems locked onto the nearest star. Life support systems shut down one by one. Zex watched in horror as his command console dissolved before his eyes, the biomechanical components liquefying into a corrosive soup that ate through the deck plating. What is happening? He screamed into the comm system. What have they done? The answer came not from his crew, but from the horizon. Captain Chen's voice, calm and collected. You were warned, Sub-Admiral. Human vessels are sovereign territory. Consider this a lesson in respecting boundaries. The 5 Merazan ships, their systems compromised beyond recovery, drifted helplessly in space. None would ever return to the Empire. Their fate would remain a mystery, one that would grow into legend. Back in the crystal chamber of the Merazan Council, Admiral Kayara received the last fragmented transmission from Scout Group 7. It contained no words, just a series of desperate sounds cut short by static. We have lost contact with Sub-Admiral Zex and his entire squadron, she reported to Vexar, her voice carefully neutral. Vexor's compound eyes flashed with rage. Impossible. 5 of our ships against 1 primitive human vessel. The humans were prepared, Kiara said simply. They knew we would not heed their warning. Vexor's rage turned to cold determination. Then we shall respond with appropriate force. Prepare the 8th Battle Fleet. We will show these humans the true might of the Murezan Empire. Kiara's experienced eyes registered doubt, but she nodded in compliance. As you command. Unknown to the Murezan, their transmission had been intercepted. At Earth Command Headquarters, buried deep beneath the surface of humanity's homeworld, General Marcus Way watched the Murezan Council's deliberations with grim satisfaction. They took the bait, he said to the assembled officers. Prepare the Vindicator Battle Group. Operation Hornet's Nest is a go. Across the room, the holographic representation of a sleek, deadly-looking vessel appeared. Unlike the boxy, utilitarian Horizon, this ship bristled with weapon systems and advanced technology that the Murezan had never imagined humans could possess. The UES Vindicator stands ready, General, a communications officer reported. Captain Rice reports all systems optimal. We nodded, his weathered face set in lines of determination. Humanity had learned long ago that in a galaxy full of older, more established species, sometimes deception was the best defense. Let the Murezan believe they were attacking a primitive, vulnerable species. The truth would become apparent soon enough. Transmit final authorization, he ordered. And may God have mercy on the Murezan, because Captain Rice certainly won't. The message went out, encrypted and compressed into a burst transmission that would be nearly impossible to detect. Its contents were simple, a single word: unleash. In the cold darkness of space, the UES Vindicator and its battle group received the order. Their stealth systems, rendering them invisible to even the most advanced Murezan sensors, remained engaged as they set course for the heart of the Empire. The humans were coming, and they were bringing with them a harsh lesson about the consequences of ignoring warnings. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the UES Vindicator, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. The holographic projection showed the Murezan 8th Battle Fleet, 30 warships arranged in perfect formation, heading directly toward Earth's outer colonies. They've taken the bait exactly as predicted, her XO, Commander Jackson Chen, remarked quietly. Reyes nodded, her expression unreadable. At 42, she had spent more than half her life in space, watching humanity's tentative steps into a galaxy that had, thus far, shown little interest in peaceful coexistence. The daughter of a diplomat and a soldier, she understood both negotiation and warfare, and knew precisely when each was appropriate. All ships maintain stealth protocols, she ordered. Passive sensors only. Let's see what they do when they reach the horizon's last coordinates. The Vindicator Battle Group, 6 advanced stealth destroyers equipped with technology that officially didn't exist, shadowed the Murezan fleet from a distance. Unlike the decoy ship that the Murezan had encountered, these vessels represented the true state of human military technology. For decades, Earth had maintained a careful deception. The ships they showed to the galaxy were deliberately outdated, utilitarian vessels that masked humanity's true capabilities. It was a strategy born of painful experience during first contact with the aggressive Taurians years earlier, a species now extinct following their attempt to harvest Earth for resources. Captain, the communications officer called out, "We're picking up transmissions from the Murezan fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Let's hear it," Reyes ordered. The voice of Supreme Commander Vexor filled the bridge, translated by the ship's AI. "Attention, human species. Your unprovoked attack on Imperial vessels constitutes an act of war against the Murezan Empire. Surrender your colonies and homeworld immediately. Resistance will result in planetary bombardment. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Then Reyes laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Unprovoked," she repeated. "They'd board one of our ships, lose 5 of theirs in the process, and call our defense unprovoked. She turned to her XO. Transmit the recording of their boarding action and our warning to all Earth colonies and allied species. Make sure it's clear who started this. Yes, Captain, Chen replied, already working at his console. Reyes turned back to the tactical display. We won't engage them at the horizon's location. Let them search empty space and grow frustrated. When they split their forces to begin searching, that's when we strike. Her fingers traced a pattern on the display. Focus on their command ship. Cut the head off the snake. Throughout the next 12 hours, the Marizan fleet scoured the region where they had lost contact with Scout Group 7. Finding nothing but debris, they began to spread out, dispatching smaller groups to nearby systems where human activity had been detected. Just as Reyes had predicted, Vexar's flagship is separating from the main group, Tactical Officer Lieutenant Rivera reported, taking 5 ships with him toward the Proxima colony. Reyes nodded. Perfect. All ships, prepare for coordinated strike. Arm Thanatos missiles. She paused, then added, and prepare boarding teams. Chen looked up in surprise. Boarding teams, Captain. I thought the directive was to destroy, not capture. It is, Reyes confirmed. But before we send Vexar and his ships into oblivion, I want him to understand exactly who he's dealing with. Prepare a specialized team for insertion into the Marizan flagship. I want their database copied and their commander extracted. That's not standard protocol, Chen said carefully. Reyes fixed him with a level gaze. Neither is threatening to bombard civilian colonies. Sometimes, Commander, the rulebook needs revision. Within the hour, the Vindicator and 2 sister ships, the Nemesis and the Retribution, detached from their hiding positions in the shadow of a gas giant. Their stealth systems, incorporating both advanced metamaterials and gravitational lensing technology, rendered them invisible to Marizan sensors until they were less than 10,000 kilometers from their targets. The first indication the Marizan had of the human presence was when their perimeter ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the Thanatos missiles, weapons that created localized rifts in space-time, effectively erasing matter from existence. On the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable Will, Supreme Commander Vexar watched in disbelief as 3 of his escort vessels vanished from his sensors. What is happening? He demanded, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. Where did they go? Unknown. Supreme Commander, his sensor officer replied, compound eyes dilating in confusion. No debris, no energy signatures. They're just gone. Before Vexar could issue orders, the view screen flickered, and a human face appeared, Captain Elena Reyes, her expression as cold and implacable as space itself. Supreme Commander Vexar, she said, her voice steady. You were warned. Human vessels are sovereign territory. Unauthorized boarding is an act of war. She leaned slightly forward. And we don't take prisoners. Vexar's rage overrode his growing fear. You dare threaten the Marizan Empire. We have existed for 10,000 years. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Your primitive vessels and rudimentary weapons are nothing against our might. Reyes didn't blink. You're operating on outdated intelligence, Commander. The ships you've seen until now were merely what we chose to show you. Allow me to educate you on humanity's true capabilities. The transmission cut off abruptly as 3 sleek, midnight black vessels materialized seemingly from nowhere on the Marizan sensors. They moved with impossible speed, their hull design unlike anything the Marizan had encountered before. All ships, open fire, Vexar ordered. The Marizan vessels unleashed their energy weapons, impressive displays of destructive force that dissipated harmlessly against the human ship shields. No effect. Supreme Commander, the weapons officer reported, his voice rising in pitch. Their defensive fields are absorbing everything we throw at them. Impossible. Vexar slammed his appendage against his command console. No species at their development stage could possess such technology. The human vessels began their attack run. Their weapons weren't the crude mass accelerators or nuclear missiles that the Merizon had expected, but highly focused particle beams that sliced through Merizon biomechanical hulls like they were made of paper. 2 more escort ships were cut in half, their crews exposed to vacuum before emergency force fields could engage. The third took a direct hit to its propulsion system, leaving it drifting and powerless. Only the Indomitable will remained intact, protected by its more advanced shielding. But even those defenses were failing under the relentless human assault. Supreme Commander, Admiral Kiara's voice came through the emergency channel. The main fleet is under attack. Multiple human vessels have appeared throughout our formation. Our ships are being destroyed faster than we can respond. Vexor could hardly process what he was hearing. How had the humans concealed such military power? How had Imperial intelligence been so catastrophically wrong? Prepare a hyperspace jump, he ordered. We must regroup and... His words were cut short as the ship shuddered violently. Klaxons wailed as the tactical officer reported. Hull breach in sections 7 through 12. Something has attached itself to our ship. Vexor felt the first real tendrils of fear creep up his spine. What is happening? The answer came minutes later as the bridge doors exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped human figures, encased in armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their helmets had no visible eye slits, just smooth, featureless faceplates that somehow conveyed menace by their very blankness. The Merizon bridge crew reached for weapons, but the humans moved with shocking speed. Non-lethal stun weapons dropped most of the crew where they stood. Only Vexor, protected by his personal shield, remained conscious. One of the humans approached him, removing their helmet to reveal Captain Rice herself. "Supreme Commander," she said, as casual as if they were meeting at a diplomatic function. "I believe it's time we had a conversation about boundaries." Vexor hissed in defiance. "Kill me if you must, human. Others will come. The Empire will not rest until your species is subjugated." Reyes smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach her eyes. "I have no intention of killing you, Commander. That would be counterproductive." She gestured, and one of her soldiers approached with a small device. "We're going to take a copy of your ship's database, and then you and I are going to have a little tour." A tour. Vexor's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Yes," Reyes confirmed. "You're going to see exactly what happens when someone boards a human vessel without permission. The difference is, you'll survive to tell others." Over the next hour, as the battle raged throughout the Merizon fleet, Vexor was forced to watch recorded footage from the UES Horizon, the trap ship that had been Set Group 7's doom. He saw how the specialized nanites released by the human vessel had infiltrated the Merizon biomechanical ships, turning their living components against their crews. He watched recordings from Earth's archives, the Taurian invasion attempt, the Dorelli acquisition mission, each ending in the complete destruction of the aggressors, species he had never heard of, erased from galactic memory for the crime of underestimating humanity. "Do you understand now?" Reyes asked as the final recording ended. "We didn't venture into space looking for conflict. Earth spent centuries trying to establish peaceful contact with alien species, but time and again, we were seen as prey rather than potential allies. So you became predators instead," Vexor said, beginning to understand. "We became what we needed to be to survive," Reyes corrected. "We maintain the facade of technological inferiority because it serves as a useful filter. Those who respect our boundaries despite perceiving us as weak are worthy of diplomatic relations. Those who see our apparent weakness as an invitation to attack." She gestured to the view screen, where the remains of the Merizon fleet drifted lifelessly. "You won't kill me," Vexor realized suddenly. "You want me to deliver a message." Reyes nodded. "Precisely. You'll return to your empire with a full account of what happened here. And you'll deliver one simple rule: never board a human vessel. We don't take prisoners, but occasionally we make exceptions to prove the rule." 2 hours later, Vexor was placed in an escape pod, along with the surviving members of his bridge crew. As the pod ejected from the indomitable will, he watched through the viewport as the human vessels systematically destroyed what remained of his once proud flagship. The pod's communication system activated, and Captain Rice's voice came through one final time. "Safe journey, Supreme Commander. Remember what you learned today." The pod accelerated away, its course set for the nearest Merizan outpost. Behind it, the human vessels vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving behind only wreckage as a testament to their passing. 3 weeks later, in the crystal chamber of the Merizan Council, a changed Vexor addressed the assembled ministers and military leaders. Gone was his arrogance, replaced by a sobering awareness of how close they had come to extinction. "The humans could have destroyed our entire species," he concluded his report. "They had the capability, and after our actions, the justification. Instead, they chose to send a message, one that I believe we would be wise to heed." Admiral Kiara, who had survived the decimation of the main fleet only by chance, spoke up. "What do you propose, Supreme Commander?" Vexor's compound eyes swept the chamber. "A formal recognition of human sovereignty and territorial rights, non-aggression treaties, and most importantly, the immediate dissemination of one absolute law throughout our empire and to all our allies. Human vessels are never to be boarded under any circumstances." There were murmurs of discontent, but they quieted quickly when Vexor activated a holographic projection, footage from the battle, showing the ease with which the human ships had destroyed the pride of the Merizan fleet. "We have ruled this sector for 10,000 years, Vexor said quietly. "If we wish to rule for 10,000 more, we must adapt. The galaxy has changed. There are predators among the stars now, and we would do well to respect their hunting grounds." The vote was unanimous. Throughout the following decades, the rules spread across the galaxy. Species that had never seen a human face nonetheless knew the one inviolable law of interstellar relations: never board a human vessel. Most heeded the warning. Those who didn't never returned to tell their tale. On the bridge of the UES Vindicator, now upgraded and serving as the flagship of Earth's boundary force, Captain Alina Rice, her hair now streaked with gray, watched as a new class of cadets received their commissions. "Remember," she told them, "our job isn't to conquer or subjugate. It's to maintain the boundary between us and them, to ensure that the one rule is never forgotten." A young ensign raised her hand. "Captain, do you think there will ever be true peace between humans and the other species? Not just fear, but understanding?" Rice considered the question, her gaze drifting to the stars visible through the viewport. "Fear is a beginning, not an end," she said finally. "It creates distance, and distance creates perspective. In time, that perspective may lead to respect, and respect to dialogue. The rule exists not because we desire isolation, but because we demand equality." She smiled at the young officers, seeing in them the future of humanity among the stars. "We don't take prisoners," she reminded them, "but we do take allies. Remember that the boundary we guard has two sides. And one day, if we hold it well, it may become a bridge instead." The cadets nodded, understanding the weight of their responsibility. To uphold the rule that had secured humanity's place among the stars. Never cross a human ship. They don't take prisoners. But perhaps in time, they might take friends.